Hi, this is the voice, Michael Chavello. You're listening to the Premium Oddscast, hosted by leading MMA odds maker Nick Kalikas, fight scientist and author of Fightnomics, Reed Kuhn, and MMA journalist Brian Heminger. The absolute best UFC betting info, hits, statistics, and analysis from the most respected authority in mixed martial arts betting, MMAoddsbreaker.com.
Welcome to the Premium Oddscast, presented by 5 Dime Sportsbook. I'm Brian Heminger, joined today by leading mixed martial arts oddsmaker Nick Kalikas to break down this Saturday's UFC Fight Night 93 event, which takes place in Hamburg, Germany. If you're unfamiliar with our format, myself and Nick will break down the fight card from top to bottom, providing extensive analysis and a pick for each fight after doing our film study for the event. Looking back at our last event, our premium package bets for UFC on Fox 21 went 3-0 to win 5.5 units overall. We won all 3 of our plays on Damian Maia, Jeremy Kennedy, and a Sam Alvey by TKO prop. We also won our 1-unit free bet on Kyle Bochniak. Back to the present, UFC Fight Night 93 features an 11-fight card in total and will be aired exclusively on UFC Fight Pass this Saturday afternoon. Let's dive right in. Now, kicking off the preliminary card on Fight Pass, just like every other fight on the card, we have a lightweight battle between Rustam Habalov, who is 19-3, and Leandro Silva, who is 19-3-1 with 1 no contest. Now, Nick, where did you open this fight, and how has the public shifted things so far?
I opened Habalov minus 210, the comeback on Silva at plus 160 right now, over at our sponsored sportsbook, 5dimes.eu. It is currently Habalov at minus 420, the comeback on Silva is plus 335. So biggest move on the entire card in this fight here, with Habalov getting bet up, now being a huge favorite. Obviously, I don't necessarily agree with it. I mean, who I think is going to win the fight? Yes, I do think Habalov is going to win the fight. I think it's going to be a lot more competitive than everybody realizes, though, in this spot, because they're both really similar guys. I mean, both these guys, you could say, are more ground specialists. I know Silva's kind of known for his striking, but make no mistake, in my opinion, he's probably just as good, if not better, on the ground with his takedowns, with his submission skill, and that sort of thing. And obviously Habalov, same thing. I mean, his suplexes, his wrestling, his takedown skill, they can both do some stuff on the feet for sure. They're both technical, especially Silva. I really like his stand-up game. I wish he was a little bit more aggressive, though. But all being said, I mean, these guys are very similar. They're very complete fighters. They have a technical skill set, and they could definitely be tough matchups for most opponents out there. So these guys will match up together. I think we're going to see a very competitive 29-28 type of decision if it hits the scorecards, and it probably does go to the cards. So I don't agree with it. I think it's a dog or pass situation at this point. There might be some value on Silva, but how the fight's going to play off, I do think Habalov's aggression is going to probably lead him to victory here. I think if the fight hits the ground a little bit, I think Habalov should be able to get more top position in this spot as well, but I wouldn't be surprised. Silva is sneaky good as far as his transitions on the ground, getting top position as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if he even ends up on top during a scramble or whatnot as well. So this is a tough fight. I mean, like I said, I'm expecting a very competitive decision with Habalov, the slight lean, so I'm going to pick him to win. But man, those you guys that are thinking it's a sure thing with Habalov, I wouldn't be surprised, especially with the state of MMA judging. I mean, we've seen some bad decisions even this past weekend a little bit where competitive fights ended up going the wrong way. And I do expect this to be a competitive fight, so I could easily see it going Silva's way on the scorecards as well. So dog or pass situation. I mean, both these guys are going to look to do about the same thing, strike a little bit, get some takedowns, control the tempo of the fight. I do lean Habalov in this spot, but again, not a confident pick. I think this is kind of one of those sleeper type of fights, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if Silva pulls off the upset.
While I also agree that this line is completely out of control, I still think that it's Rustam Habalov's fight to lose. Leandro Silva is stepping in on short notice to fight Habalov. He had about a month to prepare for this fight, so it's not extremely short notice or anything. But overall, as Nick mentioned, these guys are similar fighters. Habalov is a bit wild and unorthodox on the feet, but he does pack some big power, and he can frustrate you with that unorthodox attack on the feet with the, kind of the winging hooks sometimes that come out of nowhere, the spinning attacks. And he mixes that in with incredible grappling in terms of wrestling, in terms of getting a hold of his opponent and just tossing them over his head. The guy is very talented with takedowns, and once he gets a hold of you, you're in big trouble. You're usually going for a ride. And I don't know if Leandro Silva will be able to stop that part of the attack. Silva is a decent striker on the feet, but he's a bit too passive at times and allows his opponent to dictate things, and that's how he ended up losing his last fight, honestly. I mean, he should have been able to beat Jason Sago, but Sago just pressed the action the whole fight, and Silva just wasn't quite able to respond. And with Habalov, I think that he can do the same thing on the feet, even though he's not the better technical striker. I think Habalov can win the stand-up. And then on the ground, Silva is a very good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu artist, but Habalov is a very, very talented wrestler. He's all about positioning and power, and I think that that's going to overwhelm Silva on the ground in terms of that department. I don't see Silva picking up any major sweeps or pulling crazy submissions off. So I think for the most part, even though they're relatively evenly matched, I think this is definitely Habalov's fight to lose. I think that he just overwhelms him a little bit with the takedowns and with the pressure. So my pick is going to be Rustam Habalov. Now moving up to the middleweight division, we have Scott Askam, who is 14-2, taking on UFC newcomer Jack Hermanson, who is 13-2. Now, Nick, what's the MMA odds maker's perspective on this one?
Up at Askam, minus 140, the comeback on Hermanson at even money right now. It's staying about ballpark. It's Askam minus 120 and Hermanson is even money. Now that's just recently shifted back to that today. It's been basically a pick'em fight as well going down. I mean, minus 120 even money is virtually a pick'em, obviously as well with the slight lean towards Askam. So it's been bouncing around, and I wouldn't even be surprised to see it flip towards Hermanson a little bit as well. So that tells you for a UFC debuting fighter, a guy like Hermanson, that he's getting some decent respect. Of course, he's a Bellator vet. Of course, he's also fought in Cage Warriors, and he's fought, on the Euro scene, and he's got a lot of experience outside the UFC. So he's gained the respect of the diehard fans because they know who he is and they know how good this guy is. So matching him up in his UFC debut against a guy like Askam, which is also a tremendous fighter, is a pretty decent step up in competition in a way. But Hermanson's game, and obviously the line to pick him for a reason. I mean, he can win this fight. Both these guys are very similar. I mean, they're both well-rounded fighters as well. They both have power in the feet. They look to do some damage that way. They can get the fight to the ground. They have some grappling ability, and they can finish the fight by sub. So as we were talking about with Silva and Habalov being really similar fighters, even though Habalov does have a more significant kind of advantage in that spot, that's why he's a bigger favorite. In this spot, I mean, it is a true type of pick'em fight. I think Askam is probably going to squeak by this fight, so I'm going to lean his way a little bit more. He is going to have a little bit more reach, not pure reach. He's going to be, I guess, a couple inches taller, but it looks like on paper the reach is basically exactly the same. I just think that Askam is going to be a little bit too much for Hermanson to handle in all areas. If anything, I give him a slight edge. I think a little bit in the striking. I think a little bit in the wrestling as well. The submissions, I probably give Hermanson a slight edge in that department, but at least offensively. So this is another really similar fight. I think you're going to see a classic stand-up battle, a classic war throughout all three rounds, because I do expect this, again, probably to go over in this matchup because both of these guys are tough to finish. So I am going to lean a little bit towards Askam. Again, a spot where both guys are similar. I just think Askam might be just slightly ahead of Hermanson. But I'm expecting a fun fight, and I think that Hermanson's definitely going to get some respect coming out of this fight, win or lose.
This should be a relatively competitive matchup. Both guys are tall for the division, with Askam being 6'3" and Hermanson 6'1", and both guys have long reaches. They're actually the exact same 75-inch reach, and both guys are primarily stand-up fighters. Now, Hermanson, he's making his UFC debut, but he's no stranger to major promotions. He, took a bit of a vacation in Bellator, did not go well, came back, and had a nice little run in Cage Warriors. So he's got talent. He just wasn't quite ready the first time around. Maybe he's ready this time. We'll see. But Askam should definitely be a really good test for him because on the feet, Askam is very dangerous. He uses those long limbs well. He has nasty knees. He's got good punching power. His kicks are heavy, and he's especially dangerous in the clinch. Where Askam has kind of run into trouble in the UFC has been against guys that were looking to take him down, kind of take him out of his comfort zone. And I don't think Hermanson's going to try to do that. So I think for the most part, these guys are just going to be standing in front of each other and trying to see who wins. And with Hermanson making his UFC debut and with Askam being so already entrenched in the UFC with, some success, I think this is Askam's fight to lose. I think Hermanson is going to have his moments, but Askam should be the more accurate guy. I think he's going to be more comfortable in there. And then with potentially, UFC jitters being a factor, it should be Askam's fight. So my pick is going to be Scott Askam. Now moving all the way up to the heavyweight division, we have Yaris Danho, who is 6-1 with 1 no contest, taking on Christian Colombo, who is 8-1. Now, Nick, where did you open this fight, and how has the public shifted things so far?
I opened Danho -170, the comeback on Colombo at +130. Right now it's -110 either way at 5 dimes, so more support has come in on the underdog here. I understand it. I guess Danho did lose a little bit of respect, I think, in his debut against O'Millanchuk. I think a lot of people were having more expectations from Danho. They thought that he was better than he kind of showed in that fight. He performed okay. I mean, it was definitely a competitive matchup, at least at the beginning, but I mean, the way it kind of went down with him gassing a little bit, getting clipped, getting rocked a little bit as well, I think people were just like, oh, he's not as good as everybody thought. But matchups are everything, and I think O'Millanchuk is one of those guys that's actually a little bit underrated under the radar in most people's opinion as a heavyweight as well. So making his UFC debut, I kind of give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm expecting better things from Danho moving forward a little bit more. Hopefully his conditioning improves a little bit as well. But he's going to have another tough fight against Colombo. That's why everybody's coming in here. Colombo is one of those guys that has a lot of experience outside of the UFC, the regional competition, obviously, and the smaller organizations. I mean, he's fought in Europe and fought and actually beat some decent competition on that level. So it's not like he's fighting all cans. I mean, he's fighting some of the best fighters that he can outside of the UFC, and he's doing relatively well against them. I mean, he's racking up some wins for sure, and he deserves to be making his UFC debut in this spot, I believe. I mean, the guy could definitely win some fights in the UFC. He does have a kickboxing background. And really he's a long rangey striker with a ton of knockout power. He doesn't have the best speed. I mean, that's where he lacks the most, I think. He needs to be a little bit faster because of his length. It kind of slows him down a little bit, makes him a little bit more hittable. But he does have a nice clinch game. So if he gets inside and starts, getting that Muay Thai plum and just smashing people with knees, he could be dangerous in that aspect. And he's got some good dirty boxing, but he lacks in the takedown area as well as far as takedown defense goes. People that have a decent wrestling game can get him down, control him a little bit there as well. So his ground is lacking. Now, Danho could take advantage of a lot of that. I think Danho has the speed. He's got the athleticism. He's got the power to make life miserable for Colombo. He just has to be smart about the way he fights Colombo. He can't get too tied up in the clinch, obviously, with him as well. I think he needs to control the space a little bit here. But he isn't a strong, aggressive fighter. And he pushes a very high pace, really pushing forward again, using his boxing, and he can be effective inside the clinch in most cases. Again, Danho is going to be the shorter fighter here, so I think it's going to kind of fall into Colombo's area there if he's just not very smart about it. And defensively, obviously, Danho does need some work as well. So I do think it's Danho's fight to win or lose. I'm going to lean his way. I think his conditioning is going to be a tad better. I think he's the type of guy that's going to adapt enough where I think if a takedown's there against Colombo, he'll go for the takedown and get it. He can land some decent ground and pound, just kind of control the tempo of this fight a little bit. And I think with his power and explosiveness on the feet, he can actually clip Colombo and possibly knock him out. Now, Colombo's a tough guy. He hasn't been finished, but at the same time, well, I should say he hasn't been finished by knockout. But at the same time, he is 36 years old, making his UFC debut. Danho has enough power that he could be the first to actually stop him, I think. I mean, as Colombo's getting a little bit older, his chin's not going to get any better. So I think it is Danho's fight to win or lose. Again, it's a dangerous fight for both guys because, I mean, they're heavyweights. They both hit really hard and they're going to go for that knockout. But overall, I just think that Danho's just slightly better overall as a fighter. I mean, he's got the better ground game. And again, he can, I think, strike with Colombo as well. So I'm going to pick him to win this fight.
The only thing I'm really worried about with Danho is if he decides to make this more of a kickboxing battle where he just stands at distance and trades. We've seen some fighters just kind of get stuck doing that when they clearly have better means and paths to victory. But I think Danho will play it smart here. Christian Colombo, as Nick mentioned, is making his UFC debut and he's 36 years old. Danho actually posted something funny about this fight saying, Danho, he's old and slow, and if I don't beat him, I don't belong in the UFC. So that's, pretty damning. And he's actually pretty right. I mean, Colombo, while he's beaten a couple decent prospects on the European scene, I mean, the one time he faced anybody that's ever fought in the UFC, Victor Pesta, he got taken down, he got choked out. So, Colombo, for the most part, he's a guy with a long reach. He's tall. And if he can keep Danho at the end of his jab and the end of his big straight punches, then he has a chance to win. But I don't see Danho doing that. I think Danho, while he's raw and still has a long ways to go as a fighter, he is very powerful, very strong, and he doesn't like standing at distance. He likes to get in your face. And if he can pressure Colombo into the fence, he unloads a lot of combinations. He has good knees. And he can work for takedowns. Now, he's not a huge submission threat, but that is another factor in his game. The only thing I'm concerned about with Danho is, the guy's called the Man Mountain. He's got a ton of muscle, so he might gas himself out or something if he isn't able to put Colombo away. But for the most part, I think that he can get in Colombo's face. I think he can make some things happen, and I think that he can kind of force Colombo to wilt a little bit. As long as he doesn't stay at distance and eat long straight punches, he should be in good shape. So my pick is going to be Yaris Danho to make up for that poor UFC debut against Daniil Omielanchuk. So my pick is Yaris Danho. Now dropping all the way down to the bantamweight division, we have Taylor Lapoolis, who is 10-3, taking on Leandro Issa, who is 13-5. Now, Nick, what's the MMA odds maker's perspective on this one?
I open Lapoolis minus 170. The comeback on Issa at plus 130. Right now it's minus 150 for Lapoolis, and the comeback on Issa is at plus 130. So line basically staying where the opener was. Line margins have tightened up a little bit as well. And this is pretty clear cut. Issa has an advantage on the ground over Lapoolis. He has got an advantage over most on the ground, honestly, even though surprisingly his sub defense is a concern. And that's crazy to say about a guy like Issa. When I watch this guy get subbed, it's just a head scratcher because he's so good offensively that I don't know, his sub defense should definitely get better. Or be better, I should say. So I don't think that Lapoolis is going to sub Issa. It's possible because Lapoolis does have an underrated ground game, but still Issa's strength is going to be getting this fight to the floor. And Lapoolis, on the other hand, he's going to look to sprawl, brawl, and knock Issa out. Issa's not bad on the feet, but he's no matchup for a guy like Lapoolis and most strikers, honestly, that have heavy hands. It's not stylistically a good fight for Lapoolis, or for Issa, I should say, with a guy like Lapoolis. Lapoolis, again, I think his takedown defense is going to be good enough where he'll be able to sprawl, brawl, and on the feet, he's going to have the speed, athleticism, power to test that chin of Issa, and I don't think Issa's chin's going to be able to take it. So it's pick your poison here. It's either Issa going to get it to the floor and kind of control. And I don't know if he's going to sub Lapoolis, though. That's the other issue I have here with Issa. Lapoolis has shown so far some pretty good ground defense. He's not easy to take down, obviously, but once you do got him on the floor, I don't think he's going to be easy to sub either. So I think Issa's going to have to kind of grind him out for 3 straight rounds to win this fight, because I don't think the sub will be there. And Issa has a tendency to slow down as the fight goes. So round 3, even round 2, really, as it goes, is going to be kind of rough. And for people that are backing Issa, they're going to definitely be concerned with it. Now, on the other hand, Lapoolis does tend to slow down as well, but I think not as drastic as Issa, and I think in this matchup, Issa's going to be the one that's a little bit more tired. So as it goes, I could really see Lapoolis landing early, or, if Issa gasses out enough, even if he is having some success getting this fight to the ground, I think Lapoolis will probably end as the fight at some point as the fight goes on. I think he ends this fight by knockout. So I'm going to pick the striker over the grappler in this matchup. I just think that Lapoolis right now is the younger fighter that's improving, and he's got more upside in this spot as well. So stylistically, it's a better matchup for him, I think, than it is for Issa.
Age is definitely a factor here. Leandro Issa is entering this fight at 32 years old, and that's actually kind of ancient in the bantamweight division. And Lapoolis is still just 24. He's got so much more he can still continue to add to his game and continue to develop. And you saw the positive signs of both of these guys in their last fights that they lost. Lapoolis was looking amazing against Eric Perez, actually hurt him in the first round, but then started to slow down a little bit, and Perez just started taking him down and was able to win a decision. With Issa, he actually started really strong with his grappling against Yuri Alcantara, but then gassed out, and Alcantara was able to beat him up over the last 2 rounds, which is extra embarrassing because Alcantara is known for gassing after 1 round. So honestly, if you're going by gas tanks, I have to favor Lapoolis because he didn't really slow down. It was more that his opponent just had an intelligent game plan shift. Now, Issa definitely can get a takedown early in this fight. If he can get Alcantara down, he can definitely get Lapoolis down. But I don't know if he'll be able to get a finish, and I think he needs to get a finish if he wants to win because I don't see Issa getting takedowns for 3 straight rounds. Lapoolis was taken down by Perez, but Eric Perez is a very good ground fighter, and he was not able to get any submissions going in that fight. And Lapoolis, while his ground game is still developing, that's actually a pretty good notch in his belt that he was able to avoid any submissions. So while I see Issa maybe getting a takedown early in this fight, I don't think he gets a finish, and I think Lapoolis makes him work for it. And then that's when Lapoolis will really start to shine. I mean, he has a composed kickboxer. He has some good power in the feet. And once Issa is starting to get stuffed with his takedowns, and once he starts, just dragging a little bit, I think that's really where Lapoolis is going to take over. And I can see Lapoolis getting a late second round, maybe even a third round TKO. This could even be a great live betting scenario in this fight too. So my pick is going to be Taylor Lapoolis. I think Issa just is not going to continue improving at the rate that he was, and I think Lapoolis is going to take a big step here, especially fighting and training next door in France. So Lapoolis is my pick. Now, sticking with the bantamweight division, this time on the women's side, we have Ashley Evans-Smith, who is 4-1, taking on Veronica Macedo, who is 5-0. Now, Nick, where did you open this fight, and how has the public shifted things so far?
Up in this fight, Evans-Smith minus 265, Macedo at plus 185. Another spot where the line is staying fairly steady. It's minus 250 for Evans-Smith right now, and the Macedo is at plus 210. Man, stylistically, this is a nightmare matchup for Macedo. If she does not get the finish, she is in some serious trouble here. I mean, if you're looking at it, she's taking this fight on short notice, making her UFC debut, so you got to give her credit. I understand. I mean, she's coming in here, getting the opportunity to get in the UFC, period. So you got to take it, even if it's stylistically it's a bad matchup. How can you really say no? But short notice, the type of fighter Macedo is, I mean, I just don't think she's going to do very well in this spot. She's going to need to pull off a submission win or even a knockout to beat Smith. And it's not impossible because Evan Smith definitely has some questionable defense in fight IQ at times, but overall it's just going to be an uphill battle. But I'll get a little bit into Macedo. She's basically known for her striking, but she does have some jiu-jitsu as well on the ground. Obviously, she could finish the fight both ways. I mean, if you look on YouTube, she does have a highlight reel head kick knockout. That was really nice. I mean, it was a great technique. So she has really clean technique, enough power, obviously, to put people down with even with her kicks. So she's no slouch in any areas. I just think that her experience right now, I mean, she's young. She's only 20 years old, and really a lot of that experience has been recent. So she's fighting and trying to learn on the job, and she's faced some really weak competition. And along the way, even though she's been successful, in most cases, I mean, being 5-0 with one draw, I believe, she's still struggled in some of those fights, even the fights that she's won. So Evan Smith, on the other hand, really not the case. I mean, obviously, like I just mentioned, fight IQ sometimes, and defensively she can be a concern. But that being said, I think overall, Evan Smith, stylistically, is a smart fighter as far as what she does best, and that's get the fight to the ground, control the tempo of the fight, grind people out, drop some ground and pound, look for position, look for some nasty elbows, whatever she wants to do on the ground. I mean, once you get that position dominance, she's usually controlling enough that she can have her way with most opponents. And for Macedo, if you look at it, she's been taken down by a lot worse fighters so far early in her career. So I don't think she's going to be able to stay upright against a fighter like Evan Smith. I think Evan Smith is going to get on top, probably achieve mount. And then for mount, I mean, I could realistically see a finish in this spot. But if not, maybe Macedo's defense is better than I'm kind of giving her credit for right now. And maybe she's farther ahead of what I think. But from what I've seen in footage and what's out there with her period, I just really don't believe she's ready to beat a lot of these girls in the UFC right now at 135 pounds. I think she needs to get some legit competition outside of UFC, even maybe go to Invicta first before coming into the UFC. But with all that being said, I mean, I'm fairly confident Evan Smith, if she doesn't get finished, she's going to win this fight, either by finish herself or if it does hit the scorecards. I really don't see Macedo winning, so she wins that way as well. So it's Evan Smith's fight to win or lose, and I think she obviously gets the W here.
Yeah, the main thing not going against Veronica Macedo is she is so early in her professional career, and she's going to be giving up a ton of size here. I mean, I can see Macedo making the 125-pound division once UFC finally actually starts it up. And Ashley Evans-Smith is monstrous in the bantamweight division. And while I have not been super impressed with Evans-Smith so far, I actually thought that she lost her last fight, that she won a close decision again. But this time around, I mean, it shouldn't be too difficult. She just has to bully Medo. Medo has power. I mean, she has nasty head kicks if she can connect. She has a little bit of a submission game. She pulled off a heel hook in her last fight, but she gets bullied already, and she's just getting started in her career. I mean, literally, she just started in March of this year, and she's already had 5 fights, so that is ridiculous. But they haven't all been walks in the park. I mean, she's had some tough decision wins. She had fights where she was losing that she had to pull off a submission from her back. So I think now that she's already so quickly making the jump to the UFC in a short notice situation, I just think there is just way too much stacked up against her. Ashley Evans-Smith has power. She has wrestling. Her stand-up is getting better. And what I see happening here is Smith getting takedowns, and I see Smith just really unloading some ground and pound and probably getting a finish at some point. So Medo has promise, but it is way too early for her in this situation. So my pick is going to be Ashley Evans-Smith. Now moving up to the welterweight division, we have Peter Sabota, who is 15-5-1, taking on Nicholas Dalby, who is 14-1-1. Now, Nick, what's the MMA oddsmaker's perspective on this one?
Up in Sabota, -140. The comeback on Dalby, even money. Right now, looking over at the line, it's actually Dalby at -120. The comeback is even money. And there's pick 'em across the board. Looking at the non-best screen, it looks like there's still -110s either way. So 5 dimes is shading a little bit more towards Dalby right now. And I like it. I think that's really the way to go. Even though Sabota opened at -140, again, actually there were some Euro numbers that were hung early for this card, and this was one of the fights that was hung. And Sabota opened up a larger favorite than it is than my opener overall. So the overall action has come in towards Dalby. I agree with it. We moved a little bit stronger with Dalby as well, because I do think that both these guys are definitely good fighters. It's going to be a battle. It's going to be another highly contested matchup that I think will be competitive enough that a lot of people might be it not that confident when the scorecards are read type of fight because of the state of judging that we always say or whatnot too. But I really do think it's Dalby's fight to win or lose. I mean, Sabota, he's looked really good making his, I guess, resurgence in the UFC thus far. I mean, I know that his last fight against Noak is not going to sit well with a lot of people. I mean, that was disappointing to me as well. I didn't expect, Noak to land like he did early on with that kick and Sabota to react that way. I thought he was a little bit tougher, but obviously give no credit for that fight. And I mean, people get caught, so you can't really, that was the first time Sabota ever been knocked out or finished that way. So you got to give him the benefit of the doubt. And I'm sure we'll see a little bit better here, against Dalby. But that being said, Sabota, in most cases, I mean, if you look at it, he gets the fight to the ground, and that's where he's dangerous. He takes people's back, and he loves getting that rear naked choke. His stand-up game's obviously decent, especially, I mean, he's a southpaw, right? So he definitely has a great left roundhouse kick that he goes to the body or to the head with it. I mean, it's very effective. If he hits Dalby in the liver with that kick, it can definitely change the complexion of the fight really fast. So Sabota is no slouch on the feet, but he doesn't keep the pace that Dalby keeps up. I mean, Dalby's striking is a little bit underrated. He pushes a very high pace. And on top of that, I think Dalby actually has the edge on the ground. Even though Sabota is the better submission fighter of the two, I think that Dalby could probably control the wrestling aspect of it. Now, again, Sabota does have a pretty quick double leg. He times it well, but you could say a lot of the same thing about Dalby here. And I believe that Dalby's takedown defense is a little bit better than Sabota's overall. So I think Dalby will be able to stuff a lot of the takedown attempts from Sabota. I think on the feet, even though Sabota will have his moments and definitely land along the way, I think Dalby will just be a little bit more consistent pressure pace, and I think he's going to probably end up winning this fight on the scorecards. If there's a finish in this fight, I mean, maybe Sabota catches something crazy, but I think it's more likely that Dalby just lands a little bit more frequently, that he ends up rocking Sabota and then finally puts him out as well. So I just lean Dalby on the cards. I lean Dalby across the board here, I think, overall, minus, again, the pure submission game. I think that's the only real edge that Sabota has. So if Sabota hops on Dalby's back, Dalby needs to be very cautious because he could definitely end the fight. But outside of that, I even trust Dalby's submission defense overall. I mean, he's no dummy. Anywhere the fight takes place, you know what you're going to get with a guy like Dalby. He has been rocked in fights, especially recently, but he's never in some serious trouble. He recovers really well. His submission defense, if he gets put in a bad spot, he usually scrambles out and gets in a better position for himself as well. So there's a lot to like about him. And also, I should mention this, in the third round, he's as fresh as he is in the first round, maybe even fresher. I mean, he's the type of fighter that actually picks up the pace as the fight goes. So you don't even have to worry about his cardio. So he's got good chin, good cardio. He's a warrior. I think he's going to push the higher pace, and I think he's probably going to defeat Sabota. So I'm going to pick him to win this fight.
This is definitely an intriguing matchup. Now, obviously, Sabota is going to be the hometown hero. I mean, he's from Germany. He's one of the more successful fighters from Germany that's in the UFC, but I don't think this is a great matchup for him here, to be honest. Sabota has some power with his kicks, but I mean, he got steamrolled in his last fight by Kyle Noak, and that was not an impressive performance overall. And for the most part, his biggest strength is his ground game. I mean, his ground game is legit. When he gets on your back, you're in big trouble with the rear naked chokes, but I don't see him having a lot of success here against Dalby. Nicholas Dalby is a solid wrestler, a good scrambler, and for the most part, if anybody's going to the ground in fights with him, it's him taking fights to the floor. So I think it's going to be difficult for Sabota to get the fight to the floor if he needs it to, because he's losing on the feet. And on the feet, Dalby's not amazing. I think he's a bit overrated there. I mean, obviously you saw Darren Till kind of ate him up over the course of the first 2 rounds of their fight before Dalby fought back and made it a draw. You saw Zach Cummings have a lot of success against Dalby on the feet just by having a good pressure game plan and getting in his face, because Dalby does like to keep his distance and throw a lot of kicks. And for the most part, as long as you can pressure him and really just get going and try to keep it in more boxing range, even fighting a phone booth, that's where Dalby kind of stumbles a little bit. But I don't think Sabota is that great of a striker. I don't think he can kind of keep that game plan going for an extended period of time. So I think Dalby will get his space. I think he's going to have an opportunity to land some good kicks. And that could definitely be a problem for Sabota, because a kick was kind of his downfall in his last loss. Now, Dalby, another thing that he has going for him is he has a ton of heart. I mean, in his fights, sometimes where he's losing, he just turns it up a notch in that 3rd round. So even if Sabota gets off to a strong start, I would not count out Dalby, because he does take it to another level. And I think that he was frustrated by his performance against Cummings in his last fight, so maybe he turns up the aggression a little bit earlier this time around. So while Sabota is a talented fighter, and he definitely has a solid overall skill set, I don't think he matches up very well against Dalby. So I actually think Dalby can control the pace of this and the distance on the feet with his kicking game. And if it goes to the floor, I see Dalby getting top position, because I think he's the superior wrestler. So my pick is going to be Nicholas Dalby to probably win a decision. Now moving on to the main event of the preliminary card, we have a welterweight contest between a pair of UFC newcomers in Jessen Ayari, who is 15-3, and Judo Jim Wallhead, who is 29-9. Now, Nick, where did you open this fight, and how has the public shifted things so far?
I opened Wallhead -150, the comeback on Ayari at +110. Right now it is Wallhead at -125. Ayari is +105. So line margins tighten up, a 5-cent drop on the dog. Same ballpark. You know what? This is a tough fight. I mean, obviously Wallhead coming in on short notice, making his UFC debut. And let me just say this. It's about time they brought Wallhead over to the UFC, man. I mean, this guy's been a veteran of the sport for so long, and he's had so many quality performances along the way that there's no doubt. I mean, right now, Wallhead could have been competitive in the UFC. Of course, he went to Bellator, had some pretty good fights in Bellator as well in his career. And again, didn't win the tournament or anything like that. So he's one of those guys that is a tough out. But of course, I mean, at championship level and even in Bellator, he was not. So it is what it is with him. But he definitely deserved to get the shot in the UFC. The guy has worked hard throughout his whole career and got himself really better. I mean, he's got that judo background, as we all know, but his boxing's legit, his wrestling is legit, his heart is legit, his pace, everything about Wallhead. He's a very solid, savvy vet. And in all areas of the game, really, he's really taking it to another level for himself. I mean, you could see the improvements, like I said, year after year, and it's really been impressive. And he's real technical with his skill set. It's clean. His boxing's clean, has power to go along with it. So there's a lot of good stuff to like about it. Ayari, on the other hand, though, he's making his UFC debut. Now, Wallhead's 32, but in MMA years, he's beyond 32 because he's had a lot of wars throughout his career, of course. Ayari is 23, and he's a young 23 when it comes to, I mean, he's got a lot of experience as well outside of the UFC, of course, again, on some of the lower level organizations, and some of the competition he's faced has not even been close to the level that Wallhead's faced, for sure. So he's got a decent amount of experience for age 23, but not on the level of Wallhead. But Ayari's background is kickboxing, sambo. I believe he's a purple belt in jiu-jitsu as well. So he's a well-rounded martial artist. I don't think he's on quite the level Wallhead is as far as overall skill set goes, but Ayari's an aggressive young fighter. He's got good boxing. Again, he's aggressive and powerful as well. He's got some good clinch work and pretty solid takedown defense. Now, with all that being said, the good boxing and the technical skill that I'm talking about sometimes turns into brawling and not so clean technical skill. And then that solid takedown defense I mentioned as well, he can be put on his back. So it's really hit or miss with him at times, and depending on the level of competition he's fighting. I mean, at times he looks good, at other times he looks vulnerable in those areas. So I know that in his UFC debut, he's had a full camp for this fight. He's going to be prepared, even though with the opponent change, I'm sure he's going to be able to adapt to Wallhead and probably put on a pretty decent performance. But that being said, this is a step up in competition, and I think if Wallhead does not get clipped or knocked out in this fight, he probably ends up winning the fight. It might be a competitive decision because Ayari's aggression is going to make it interesting for sure, but I still lean a little bit more towards Wallhead. I think that if he doesn't get knocked out or submitted, which I don't think Ayari submits him, even though Ayari has some decent jiu-jitsu and he's finished lesser guys in the past, I still think Wallhead survives in that aspect. So Wallhead does not get knocked out. I think he probably wins the fight. Wallhead also has knockout power and is a threat to knock Ayari out. I mean, Ayari's been knocked out already a couple times in his career, so I wouldn't be so shocked at all if Wallhead lands and knocks Ayari out. I mean, he's, again, that technical skill set with power. So Wallhead can knock him out. Wallhead can decision him on the cards as well. Big step up for Ayari, even though I think he's getting better and he's maybe a fighter to watch in the future. But right now, in this moment, I got to lean a little bit more towards Wallhead. And I'm going to be pulling for him, man. Again, I'm glad he made the UFC debut, or finally made it over here. And I'm hoping he puts together a few wins at least and see what he does with his career moving forward. But my lean is definitely Wallhead in this spot.
Yeah, this is definitely a tricky matchup. I mean, Ayari, he's a talented fighter, but his big problem when you watch him fight is he is way too passive. I mean, he's got a lot of power. He's a good brawler when he chooses to brawl. But for the most part, if you watch him perform, he's dancing around on the outside and just waiting and letting his opponent press the action from the cage center, or letting his opponent clinch him, or letting his opponent shoot for takedowns. And I think that's exactly what Jim Wallhead's going to do. Wallhead is a savvy vet. He was in Bellator. He's been fighting for ages. Has a lot of power on the feet. He actually was the last opponent of Frank Trigg's career back in the day, about 4 years ago. So, Wallhead is definitely a very, very sturdy and dangerous opponent, even if he is stepping in on short notice. And I don't think it'll make as much of a difference with Wallhead stepping in on short notice because Ayari's also making his UFC debut. Now, Ayari's last fight was against Mikhail Lebeau, a former UFC lightweight who could also fight welterweight on occasion, and that fight was very competitive if you went back and watched it. And that's the fight that earned Ayari a trip to the UFC, and honestly, I didn't think he looked that good. He was doing his thing, dancing around on the outside. Lebeau was mostly in the middle, firing off kicks, and I thought Lebeau won, but Ayari ended up taking a decision. So, with Jim Wallhead, I think that Wallhead can kind of use Lebeau's game plan and then take it up a notch, because Wallhead does definitely have finishing power. And Ayari, while he's younger and on the rise a little bit and is definitely one of the best prospects out of Germany that wasn't in the UFC, Ayari also doesn't have a great chin. He's already been knocked out a couple times. So if Wallhead can connect cleanly, I think Ayari could be in big, big trouble. And Wallhead does not need to get a knockout to get the win. As long as he can just press the action enough, then Ayari might just get outpaced and lose a decision. It's not going to be like in his last fight where he was on the regional circuit and he was the defending German against the big bad French invader, and he won a kind of a controversial decision. This time around, you're getting UFC judges. They're not going to be swayed, I don't think. So I actually really think Jim Wallhead is a really good shot here. So I'm siding with Jim Wallhead as my pick. Now moving on to the main card, and the first fight on the main card is a lightweight bout between native German Nick Hine, who is 13-2 with 1 no contest, and Tai-Hyung Bang, who is 18-9. Now, Nick, what's the MMA odds maker's perspective on this one?
Up in Hine, minus 245, the comeback on Bang, plus 175. Another spot where the line's staying basically where it opened. Hine is now minus 235. The comeback on Bang is plus 195. So line margins have tightened up a little bit. Man, I'll tell you what, Hine has looked pretty good. I mean, throughout his UFC career, I didn't think he was going to be quite as good as he's been. I mean, he's fought decent competition. I mean, not championship level competition, but decent competition thus far in the UFC. And he's done really well. Even in his lone loss was against James Vick. And obviously James Vick gets a ton of respect out there from the diehards, which he deserves. I mean, that was even a competitive decision against a guy like Vick. So, and Hine's gotten better since then and more confidence, of course. So Hine is a type of fighter that continues to improve because he's got the confidence. He's getting that UFC experience, and with his skill set, which is a little bit of everything with Hine. I mean, obviously he's more known for his judo background again, his takedown skill and all that stuff. But obviously, watching him fight, he stands and bangs. He's got speed, he's got power, he's got a really good stand-up game, and he doesn't even need to take to the ground. So, I mean, a lot of times when fighters are listed as a ground fighter, or whatever they may be listed as, that's not necessarily the case. And Hine is above and beyond all that stuff. So Hine is a tough out for a guy like Bang as well. Bang is primarily known, obviously, for striking. And he's going to have some reach in this fight, and he definitely has enough knockout power, which he can make life interesting here for Hine, because if Hine doesn't fight smarter, he goes in a little bit too aggressive and Bang lands. I mean, Bang can knock a lot of people out in the lightweight division. He's got a tremendous amount of power, and that's what he's done throughout his whole career. Outside of that, though, Bang is not the better wrestler in this spot, even though he's got okay takedown defense at times against people that can get the fight to the floor and kind of implement that kind of style. Bang does fall into that trap. So Hine, I think if he wants to take this fight to the floor, especially as the fight progresses a little bit, he's going to have an easier time doing so. And then on the feet, even though Bang is going to be dangerous, I think Hine outpoints him on the feet, pushes a little bit of higher pace, a steady pace. Hine has knockout power in his own right as well. So anywhere the fight takes place, really, I think Hine is going to have somewhat an advantage. Again, striking might be the only aspect that Bang could have an advantage, but I still think that Hine overall right now is the better striker. So, and I should mention again, the reach advantage that Bang has comes into play. I believe it's like 5-6 inches of pure reach that Bang's going to have over him. Which, I mean, you have to adapt. I mean, Hine has faced taller, lankier fighters again, like I just pointed that out with Vic. So it's not like he's not used to it either. So I think he could adapt okay in this fight. And really, I would be surprised to see Hine lose this fight. So Bang has a puncher's chance, but I think he doesn't win on the scorecards, and then again, he can get finished as well. So it's hard not to lean towards Hine in this spot.
Yeah, I really like Nick Hine here. I mean, Tai-Hyung Bang, he's got a big right hand, but for the most part, you look at his wins, and he had a knockout win over Cajun Johnson in a fight that he was losing, and then he barely scraped one out in his last fight. I mean, and that was not an impressive performance overall. I mean, that was one of the worst fights I've seen in a while, in his fight against Leo Kuntz. So I think this time around against Nick Hine, you're going to see how Tai-Hyung Bang looks against even average UFC lightweights, because, John Tuck was able to easily take out Bang with a first round submission, and Mirbek Taisimov, while it wasn't the most impressive performance of Taisimov's career, I mean, he easily won a decision in that fight too. So Nick Hine, as long as he doesn't walk into a big right hand, then he should be in good shape. I mean, that's pretty much what Bang has. He has a lot of power, but he's not particularly fast. He doesn't have a very good ground game. He doesn't have really anything to offer in the submission department. And he's not a great kicker. I mean, he's just got a little bit of power everywhere, especially the right hand. And if Hine can avoid the right hand, then I see Hine having success with his kicks. I see him having success with his hands. I can see him working the clinch a little bit. I can see him potentially getting takedowns. So I really, really like Nick Hine here, especially with the hometown crowd. He's definitely one of the best German fighters on the UFC roster. And this is a fight that's kind of, to me, seems like it was picture perfect for a German to have success. So I think this is the way that they want to get the main card started with a big German victory. So as long as Hine doesn't get caught, then he should be in really good shape here. I think he wins either a decision or maybe even a late finish as Banks starts to slow down because his cardio is not very good. So my pick is going to be Nick Hine. Now moving up to the light heavyweight division, we have Ryan Bader, who is 21-5, taking on Ilir Latifi, who is 13-4 with 1 no contest. Now, Nick, where did you open this fight, and how has the public shifted things so far?
Up in Bader minus 265, the comeback on Latifi at plus 185. Another spot where it's staying pretty steady. It's minus 220 right now for Bader, and Latifi is plus 180. And it was just a little bit higher earlier today. So more action is definitely coming in on Latifi as the underdog here against Bader as a whole. I understand it in a way because Latifi has looked pretty good. I mean, another spot where I kind of underestimate Latifi a little bit at times. I mean, the guy is definitely a talented fighter because he's got pretty much all aspects of the game that you want to see as well. He's got speed, power on the feet. He's got some takedown ability. He's got some submission ability. I mean, Latifi is a pretty complete fighter. So it is going to be a tough fight for Bader regardless of how things work out. Now, of course, the only really bad spot, in my opinion, was Blachowicz landing, that liver shot kind of on Latifi there and doing some damage with that body kick, of course. And that was a bit surprising. Obviously, Latifi was supposed to win that fight, and he did not. So that kind of is a head scratcher a little bit, but it happens, and I don't think Bader's going to be looking to do that sort of thing on Latifi either. So Bader's more, likely to use his hands in his boxing. He's got knockout power in those areas as well. So but that is still a question mark for me. But Latifi has bounced back, looked really good in his last fight against Vellante. I didn't think he was going to look that good against Vellante because Vellante is one of those guys that flies under the radar and is better than most people realize, really. And Latifi, it was a clear win for him, no doubt. I mean, he decisioned him pretty easy. So that was impressive. But this fight, I don't know, man. Everybody just seems like they're on Latifi's bandwagon here as far as, okay, look, he's got speed, he's got power. He should be able to catch Bader's chin because if anything you could say bad about Bader is his chin is definitely suspect, and it's been tested a few times, and it really hasn't passed the test in most cases that he's been rocked and clipped like that. I mean, against Glover, against Anthony Johnson, but again, those are heavy hitters outside of that. But he has been rocked and wobbled in fights as well. So it's a tough spot because I think Bader is the better overall fighter. I think Bader is going to be a little bit physically stronger. Obviously, he's going to have some size over Latifi as well. Latifi is going to have the speed advantage. And Bader's strike defense at times isn't the greatest. I mean, he's definitely hittable, as we mentioned before, too. But Bader has a tremendous amount of knockout power as well. Bader should have the wrestling edge in this fight. And really, if Bader does not get clipped by Latifi, he should win this fight. I don't see Latifi winning on the scorecards against Bader because I don't think he's going to be able to really push a high pace against Bader. I mean, Bader could slow the tempo of this fight down. If he gets top position, obviously that's a whole different situation. But outside of that, Bader could probably control him up against the cage a little bit more as well. So for me, it's Latifi has to knock him out. If not, Bader could knock Latifi out because he does have that knockout power, underrated knockout power in his hands, honestly. And Bader is the better wrestler. So stylistically, this is kind of a tough matchup for Latifi. And I realize that it seems like Latifi is going to be everybody's favorite dog here in this spot. So it kind of worries me a little bit because I could see it again, that speed, that power against Bader's chin. I understand it, but I don't know. I'm going to go the other way and I'm going to kind of lean a little bit more towards Ryan Bader in this fight because even though it's a dangerous fight for him and he's got to be careful and that defense I'm not too thrilled about, I still think he is the better fighter. He's a legit contender at 205 where Latifi's kind of trying to get in that area, in that range. So if he wins this fight, obviously he's right there, but I don't know. I still got to give Bader the slight lean. So overall, I'm going to bank on Bader maybe not getting knocked out, not getting caught with that speed and power of Latifi. And if he does not, I really think he wins the fight. He could finish the fight or he could win on the scorecard. So I'm going to pick Bader to win the fight.
And I'm just not quite as convinced. I know Ryan Bader is a talented veteran. He's got several great victories in his career, most notably the wins over, Rashad Evans, Phil Davis, that were actually more recent. But he's been able to pick up those wins because he kind of slows the pace down a little bit, focuses a little bit more on his jab rather than some of his biggest strengths, which have always been his wrestling and his power. And I think if he slows the pace down against Ilir Latifi, that could be a problem because Latifi is, all action, all explosion, just pure power. And that's where he shines. I mean, you saw that in his little run where he's had some really impressive first round finishes. And then most recently, he had a great performance against Gian Vellante where he was just the more active fighter, landed a lot of good shots against a bigger, longer guy, and even picked up some takedowns. Now, I don't see Latifi getting a bunch of takedowns or anything against Bader, but on the feet, he definitely is going to be the quicker fighter. And if he can get inside and land something heavy, whether it's a big kick to the body, a big head kick, a big punch, then Ryan Bader's going to be in trouble. Bader's chin has always been a big question mark. You've seen that time and time again where he's been in fights and things were looking okay, and then he starts getting hit hard, and then he is in big trouble. You saw it when he got dropped by Tito. You saw it when he had Glover Teixeira on the ropes and then got caught and knocked out, and then Anthony Johnson just got on top of him and landed a couple and then just immediately put him out. So if Ilir Latifi can connect with those sledgehammers for fists that he has, then I think Ryan Bader's going to be in a lot of trouble. Bader will probably look to slow this fight down. I think entering the clinch, maybe even working for takedowns would be a smart thing. And if he can stay on the outside and try to work the jab, that would be great. I mean, Gegard Mousasi did have some success in Latifi's UFC debut by staying on the outside and just jabbing him to death. Now, I'm not fully convinced that'll work this time around because Latifi is a different fighter now, and he has definitely improved by leaps and bounds since that UFC debut. But Bader does have the skills to stifle him. I just don't know if he can do it over the course of 3 rounds without getting caught. So I actually think that this is an opportunity here for Ilir Latifi to step in and pull off an upset. I mean, it only takes one good shot, and Latifi definitely does have the power and ability to get inside and utilize that power. So I'm going to side with Ilir Latifi here to pull off the upset. Now, sticking with the light heavyweight division, we have Alexander Gustafsson, who is 16-4, taking on Jan Blachowicz, who is 19-5. Now, Nick, what's the MMA odds maker's perspective on this one?
Up in Gustafsson, minus 600. The comeback on Blachowicz at plus 400. Right now, it is Gustafsson minus 750. The comeback on Blachowicz is plus 525. So I opened it pretty decent, and it wasn't enough. And I do understand it because stylistically, this is a nightmare matchup for Blachowicz. I mean, I really don't see how he wins this fight. He's not going to be able to out-wrestle Gustafsson. He's not going to be able to outstrike Gustafsson. He's not going to be able to submit Gustafsson. I don't think he will be because obviously he's not going to get, I think, superior position on the ground here. So really, Blachowicz has a puncher's chance. And if he does rock Gustafsson or something like that, then of course he can submit him because if he's wobbled, then his defense definitely becomes a lot worse. So Blachowicz has a puncher's chance, but that's about it here. Gustafsson, again, on the feet, he's going to have a little bit more reach. He's a little bit taller. The reach is fairly similar, but overall he's going to have a little bit more length, obviously. So that's going to be a challenge for Blachowicz. I mean, his wrestling is definitely a lot better than Blachowicz. He can shoot for takedowns if he wants, get this fight to the floor, drop some bombs on Blachowicz as well. His cardio is better than Blachowicz as well. So, I mean, he's a big favorite. I'm just cut to the chase. He's a big favorite for a reason. I really don't see the dog pulling off the upset here. I mean, anytime that we totally underestimate somebody, it comes back and sometimes bites us all. So we all have to be careful. I mean, it's not out of the question. Blachowicz definitely has enough power and experience that he could land, but realistically speaking, it shouldn't happen. Gustafsson is just the far superior fighter here. And outside of, again, another type of puncher's chance, Gustafsson should be able to finish this fight, if not at least dominate 3 rounds on the scorecards. And it will be a clear 30-27, maybe even a 30-26 type of decision for Gustafsson, I think. So not much more time being spent here. I do think Gustafsson wins this fight.
Yeah, I'm not going to waste a lot of time here either. I mean, Jan Blachowicz is a talented fighter, and he has a bit of pop in his hands and a bit of pop in his feet, but for the most part, he allows his opponents to dictate the pace. He's way too comfortable on the back foot. He gets pressured into the fence too easily, and I don't think he has enough power to take out somebody like Alexander Gustafsson. I mean, the only person that's ever really been able to do that was Anthony Johnson. Gustafsson's been hurt in fights, but he always usually recovers. And Gustafsson is incredibly motivated. I mean, the last time he fought, it was an incredibly close 5-round war against Daniel Cormier for the title that he came up short in. And this time around, I think he's out to make a statement. Blachowicz has not had a very successful run inside the octagon, other than that nice body kick that he landed against Latifi in his UFC debut. But for the most part, he's just been outmuscled, outworked, outpaced by just about everybody he fights. And Alexander Gustafsson is one of the best fighters in the light heavyweight division, one of the best fighters in the world. So I just don't see any way Blachowicz has a chance other than a puncher's chance, and he just doesn't have the power to even utilize that puncher's chance. So unless Gustafsson just completely walks into something or trips and, tears his knee or something in the cage, I don't see how Jan Blachowicz wins this fight. Gustafsson's going to have the superior boxing, the power, the better ground game. So this is definitely Alexander Gustafsson's fight to lose. He is a very deserved heavy favorite here. Now moving on to the main event of the evening in the heavyweight division, we have Andrei Arlovski, who is 25-12 with 1 no contest, taking on Josh Barnett, who is 34-8. Now, Nick, where did you open this fight, and how has the public shifted things so far?
Up in Barnett, minus 210, the comeback on Arlovski at plus 160. Right now, it has dropped a little bit. Barnett's down to minus 150. Arlovski is plus 130. So 30-cent drop on the dog. A lot of people backing Arlovski in this fight. I mean, I think a lot of it is based on, obviously people know both these fighters well. I mean, it's amazing that they're still in the UFC at this point in their careers. I mean, it's remarkable the length and longevity of both guys' career. And on top of that, to really be in the title picture, which not too long ago, both these guys were. Now, of course, they both suffered setbacks. I mean, for Arlovski, it's been a couple in a row. I mean, a couple nasty knockout losses, of course, to current champion Stipe Miocic, and then, of course, Alistair Overeem in his last fight. So he's coming back off of back-to-back KO losses and fighting Barnett, where Barnett was actually on a nice little roll there, looking really good. And then he had that terrible performance against Rothwell. Even before he got subbed, he wasn't looking that good, to be honest with you. So I'm not sure what's up with Barnett in that spot. I really thought he would do better in that fight, really, against Rothwell. And again, I'm just amazed that he was able to get finished on the ground, because I would have never guessed that. I mean, we all know how good Josh Barnett's sub game is, so it was a shock to most of us that followed the sport for a while. So with all of that being said, at this stage, I still got to lean a little bit towards more Barnett, though. I mean, Arlovski is definitely the better pure striker on the feet. He's got good knockout power, and can he knock Barnett out? Yes, I can see that happening. But I do think Barnett can also knock Arlovski out. I mean, Arlovski is coming off back-to-back losses. Throughout his career, he's been knocked out way too many times. I mean, that chin has definitely been suspect. In fact, when he went on that little streak that he went on to kind of get in the title mix, a lot of people were shocked and amazed that he didn't get knocked out along the way. So credit Arlovski for that. He definitely has improved defensively enough to get him by. But again, that chin is coming through a little bit more recently. And against Barnett, Barnett's a very intelligent fighter. That's one thing I do like about Barnett in most of his fights. He knows what he's up against, and he usually adapts well enough that he can kind of come up with a decent game plan against his opponent and put it into use, and usually comes out away with a win. So minus that lackluster performance against Rothwell, I do think it's Barnett's fight to win or lose, because I think Barnett is the better ground guy, obviously. I think he could get some takedowns. Everybody raves about Arlovski's takedown defense, and I believe Fight Metric has it at like 83%. I don't think it's that good, honestly. I mean, I think it's solid, and you got to give him credit because he's been in the UFC for so long, and that's tracked by Fight Metric, and 83% is amazing takedown defense. But if you look a little bit past that, the guys that really have looked to take Arlovski to the ground and implement that kind of game plan, most of them have had some success. So it's a little bit, I think, deceiving in saying that his takedown defense is so good. And I think Barnett is actually the type of fighter that can get this fight to the ground and try to push the pace and try to do that sort of thing against Arlovski here. And on the ground, again, maybe he doesn't submit Arlovski, but he's going to have a significant advantage in control, some ground and pound along the way as well. And of course, that will win him points on the scorecards along the way. So it's really hard to imagine that this fight goes 5 rounds is what I'm trying to spit out here. So it's not going to probably hit the scorecards, because both these guys are chinny enough that something's got to give along the way. But overall, I do lean a little bit more towards Barnett. I trust him just slightly more. I think he can win by knockout. He can control the ground grappling exchanges as well. And where I think Arlovski in this spot could really only win by knockout more than anything else. So I don't know. Coming off back-to-back knockout losses, I guess I'd rather side with Barnett here as well. I do think as the fight drops even more, though, I think there might be some value opening up on Barnett. I mean, everybody, again, we were talking about Latifi being everybody's favorite dog. Arlovski is another one that I think a lot of people are backing and banking that he pulls off a victory over Barnett, because, again, before those knockout losses, he was actually looking really good. And Barnett, I mean, that Rothwell fight definitely dropped his stock quite a bit, that fight, that he had last. So all that being said, I do believe that Barnett probably finishes Arlovski in this fight and gets the W here. So another spot where I am going to go against the grain, and I think Josh Barnett is still the better overall fighter right now, and he's probably going to get the W here.
And this is going to be a spot where we disagree. Yes, Josh Barnett does have more ways to win, but I'm not wholly convinced that he'll be able to utilize those ways to win. Barnett has decent wrestling. His catch wrestling is amazing. But, I mean, Andrei Arlovski is such a savvy veteran that I don't really see Barnett having a lot of success with the wrestling. Honestly, the best path to victory for Barnett is to just get right in Arlovski's face and just bum rush him like he did against Frank Mir, where he just took him out in just a couple seconds. Arlovski does not handle pressure very well. When people try to stand and trade with him normally in a kickboxing fight, that's where he thrives usually. So, Barnett is the type of fighter that is physical. He's big, he's strong, but, I just don't think he is as good of an athlete as Andrei Arlovski. Arlovski has had some solid performances in that run that almost got him back into the title mix, but he obviously came up short in back-to-back fights against the two guys that are fighting for the heavyweight title next week. So there's nothing terrible about his last two losses. Yeah, they were knockout losses, but it's to the heavyweight champ and the number one contender. So, I'm not going to blame him for that. And overall, Arlovski is a talented striker with heavy hands. Yes, he's chinny, but, Josh Barnett is not a very talented striker unless he just sells out for the knockout and just goes after Andrei Arlovski. I don't see him having a lot of success on the feet overall. This isn't like Barnett's fight against Roy Nelson, where he could just get in Roy Nelson's face a little bit and clinch him the whole fight and just make it ugly and try to grind it out. I don't think Arlovski's going to let that happen, although he has been pressured a little bit in fights like the first time against Bigfoot Silva, where that game plan was moderately successful. But I just think over the course of a 5-round fight, it's going to be, somebody's obviously going to go out, but I think it's Josh Barnett actually, because as long as Arlovski can find some openings and get a little bit of space, then Barnett does seem like he's actually on more of a decline than Arlovski especially after that performance we saw against Ben Rothwell, where he just looked awful. I mean, he looked really weird on the feet, trying to do a lot of things that he normally doesn't do. And then the second he shot in for a takedown, he left his neck out and got choked out by someone that he is definitely a better grappler than. So I'm going to side with Andrei Arlovski here. I think over the course of probably the first 2 or 3 rounds, Arlovski might find a home for a big right hand, and Barnett is not going to like it. So I'm going to side with Arlovski. I think he can pick up a knockout. So that'll do it for our full event breakdown for UFC Fight Night 93. Our premium bets for the event will be released this Friday following the weigh-in, so stay tuned for that if you're an MMA Oddsbreaker premium member. If we have a free play to give out, make sure to follow @MMAOB Premium on Twitter, because that's where we'll post them first. We can also notify you of our free bets via email alert if you prefer that method. Just send an email to picks@MMAOddsbreaker.com and we'll add you to our free bet mailing list. Special thanks to our sponsor, 5 Dimes Sportsbook. Good luck, everyone, and hopefully the betting gods are on your side this weekend.